The bitter December wind cut through the silent streets. Nathan Hayes, expecting another lonely Christmas Eve, noticed a small figure huddled near a dumpster. A little girl, no older than 7, digging through the trash. His heart tightened. Something told him this night wouldn't be like any other. It was about to change both their lives forever. The bitter December wind cut through the streets like a knife, carrying the scent of snow and the faint hum of distant holiday lights. Nathan Hayes pulled his coat tighter around his shoulders, his keys jingling in his hand as he stepped out of his apartment building. Christmas Eve, 11:47 p.m. Just another lonely night at work, just another night where silence was his only companion. He thought he was used to it by now, the emptiness, the quiet, the weight of memories that never seemed to fade. As he walked toward his car, something made him pause. A small movement near the dumpster caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a stray animal scrounging for scraps. But as his eyes adjusted to the dim light, his heart skipped a beat. It wasn't an animal, it was a child. A little girl, no older than 7, methodically searching through the garbage. Her thin fingers trembled in the icy air as she picked through discarded food and crumpled papers, her movements careful and practiced, the way someone who had done this before would move. Nathan's steps faltered and his mind raced. He had seen hardship before, but never like this. Never a child alone, out in the freezing night, searching for food. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to speak. "Hey there," he called softly, careful not to startle her. The girl froze, her wide brown eyes filled with fear as she clutched a half-eaten sandwich against her chest. "It's okay," Nathan said gently, raising a hand slowly. "I'm not going to hurt you." Her gaze studied him warily, the kind of weariness no child should ever have. Her dark hair fell in tangled strands around her pale cheeks, her tiny frame swallowed by a tattered purple jacket. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Nathan asked, his voice soft. After a long pause, she whispered, "Melody." "Melody," Nathan repeated, kneeling to her level. "That's a beautiful name. I'm Nathan." He watched her closely, every instinct in him screaming to protect this little girl. "Are you looking for something specific?" "Food," she admitted quietly, barely above a whisper. Nathan's chest tightened. The thought of any child searching through garbage for food on Christmas Eve of all nights hit him like a punch. "No child should ever have to do this," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Not now, not ever. Where are your parents, Melody?" Her bottom lip quivered and her eyes darted to the ground. I don't have any," she whispered. Nathan felt a pang in his chest, an ache he hadn't felt in years. The protective instinct of a father stirred within him, long buried under grief and loss. 3 years ago, he had been a different man, married with a wife and dreams of a family, a nursery painted soft yellow for a child that would never come. Life had ripped all of that away, leaving him hollow and isolated. But now here was Melody, fragile and alone, and Nathan knew in that moment that he couldn't walk away. He couldn't leave her to face the cold night alone. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. Nathan reached into his pocket, fumbling with his phone for a moment, then stepped closer, careful not to frighten her. "Melody," he said softly, "you don't have to do this alone anymore." The words felt heavier than anything he'd said in years, carrying the weight of his own pain and the promise of something new. For the first time in a long while, the small girl looked up at him, a spark of curiosity breaking through the fear. Nathan knew that tonight, something extraordinary was about to begin, something that would change both of their lives forever. Nathan hesitated for a moment, studying the little girl before him. Melody's eyes were wide, reflecting both fear and exhaustion, the kind of weariness that no 7-year-old should ever carry. The December wind bit through the tattered jacket she wore, and Nathan's chest tightened as he realized just how fragile she was. He crouched a little lower, lowering his voice to make it sound safe, warm. "Melody, can I sit with you for a moment?" he asked softly. She shifted slightly, clutching her sandwich, unsure if she could trust him. Nathan didn't rush her. Trust, he knew, was earned, especially for someone who had been let down by adults before. "I'm not going to hurt you," he continued, his words deliberate and calm. "I just want to understand. Can you tell me why you're out here?" Melody hesitated, glancing around as if expecting someone to appear and tell her she wasn't allowed to speak. After a long pause, she whispered, I'm hungry. I don't have anywhere else to go." Nathan's heart clenched. Hunger was one thing, being alone, abandoned, and desperate in the freezing night was something entirely different. "No child should ever feel this way," he said quietly, the words almost breaking him. He reached into his coat pocket and found a granola bar he'd brought from work, offering it carefully. Melody's fingers trembled as she took it, eyes still wary. "Thank you," she muttered, barely above a whisper. Her voice was soft, fragile, but there was something in it, a flicker of hope, perhaps, that Nathan couldn't ignore. "Melody," he said gently, "I know it's cold out here. How about we go somewhere warm, somewhere you can rest for a bit?" Her eyes widened, and for a second she looked as if she might run. Nathan held his hands up, letting her see he meant no harm. "You don't have to decide right now," he said softly. "I'll wait." She hesitated, glancing at the dark street, the cold, the dumpster she had been searching through. Then slowly, cautiously, she nodded. Nathan offered her a small smile. "That's a brave choice," he said. "Let's go inside and get you something warm to eat." As they walked toward his apartment, Nathan kept glancing at her, trying to read her expression. He thought about his own past, about the pain he had carried since losing his wife and unborn son. That grief had kept him isolated for 3 years, but in Melody's eyes, he saw something familiar: fear, loneliness, and a longing to be seen and cared for. Inside his apartment, the warmth hit Melody immediately. She shivered slightly, pulling her thin jacket tighter around her. Nathan guided her gently toward the living room. "Take a seat," he said softly. He moved to the kitchen and began preparing something simple, a warm soup, a grilled cheese sandwich, anything to give her a sense of comfort. Melody watched him quietly, her eyes flicking around the apartment. It was modest and clean, but it had warmth, the faint scent of spices from past meals, and a small, flickering glow from the lamp. For the first time that night, she seemed to relax just a little, letting go of some of the tension that had gripped her tiny body. Nathan sat back down beside her, keeping his distance but offering reassurance with his presence. "Melody," he said softly, "you're safe here, I promise. No one is going to make you leave, and no one is going to hurt you." For a long moment, she said nothing, just looked at him with wide eyes, the tiniest spark of trust flickering to life. Nathan knew this was only the beginning, but it was enough to start. A fragile connection forming in the quiet of his warm apartment on a cold Christmas Eve night. Melody sat quietly on the edge of the couch, her small fingers gripping the edge of the cushion as if holding on to something solid in a world that had been anything but. Nathan watched her, his heart heavy with the weight of understanding how much this little girl had endured. He knew he couldn't rush her, couldn't push her to speak before she was ready. Some walls took years to build, trust even longer to regain. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Melody's voice broke the silence. I used to live with my grandma Ruth," she whispered. Nathan leaned closer, his eyes gentle. "She was all I had after my mama left when I was a baby." Her words trembled as she spoke, each syllable carrying a lifetime of loss. Nathan felt his chest tighten. He remembered his own losses, the emptiness that had haunted him for years. "I'm so sorry, Melody," he said softly. "I can't imagine what that must have been like." Her voice quivered as she continued. "Grandma got sick a few weeks ago. She was so tired, coughing all the time. We didn't have money for a doctor, so she just took medicine from the store. One morning I tried to wake her for breakfast, but she wouldn't open her eyes. I shook her and called her name, but she just wouldn't wake up." Nathan's throat constricted. He knew that feeling, the sudden, unimaginable collapse of the world around you, the helplessness, the panic. His own grief threatened to rise again, but he forced himself to stay present, to focus on Melody. "They came for me after that," she said, her voice breaking. "People in uniform said I had to go live with new families. None of them wanted me to stay. I kept moving around, but no one cared. So I came back here. I thought maybe if I came back to our old neighborhood, Ruth might come home too." Nathan felt a pang of anguish. This child had been bounced around the system, forgotten and abandoned, left to survive on scraps and hope. It was the same feeling he had known after losing Sarah and their unborn son, except Melody was only 7 years old. "How long have you been out here?" he asked gently, his voice shaking slightly despite his best effort to remain calm. 2 days, she admitted quietly. "I've been sleeping in the basement of that apartment complex next door through a broken window. 2 days. Nathan's mind raced. 2 days alone in December, surviving on scraps of food and hope. He felt a protective fire ignite inside him, something he hadn't felt in years, a father's instinct to shield and nurture. "Melody," he said softly, kneeling to meet her gaze, "you don't have to do this alone anymore, not tonight, not ever." She looked at him, confusion flickering across her face. Adults had let her down before, but something in Nathan's tone, the raw honesty in his eyes, seemed to reach her. A fragile thread of trust began to form. Nathan reached into his coat pocket, producing a small granola bar and a warm bottle of water he had bought earlier. "We'll start with something simple," he said gently. "Something to keep you warm and full tonight. Then we'll figure everything else out together." For the first time that night, Melody allowed herself a small, hesitant smile. She hadn't realized it yet, but in this moment, a new chapter was beginning. Nathan Hayes, a man who had been broken by his own losses, was about to become the person who would change her life, and she unknowingly would begin to heal him too. Nathan gently took Melody's hand, careful not to startle her. She hesitated for a moment, glancing back at the dark streets, then slowly followed him toward his apartment. Each step seemed to carry the weight of her small, weary body, and Nathan felt his heart ache at the sight. The cold night had left her shivering, her thin jacket offering little protection against the December chill. When they entered his apartment, warmth enveloped them immediately. Melody paused, her eyes widening as she took in the small space. It was modest, functional, and clean, though sparsely decorated, nothing like a home filled with personal touches. Yet for Melody, it was the first place that felt safe in what felt like forever. Nathan guided her to the living room, gesturing toward the couch. "Sit here for a moment," he said softly. Melody obeyed, her fingers clutching the edge of the cushion. Nathan moved into the kitchen, putting together something simple to eat. A warm soup simmered on the stove, and he toasted bread for grilled cheese sandwiches. The aroma filled the apartment, mixing with the faint smell of winter coats and the lingering chill from outside. He carried the food to the couch carefully, placing it in front of Melody. "Here," he said gently. "Eat. You need to warm up and fill your stomach." She looked at the food, eyes darting between the simple meal and Nathan's steady gaze. Hesitantly, she picked up a piece of bread, nibbling carefully, as if afraid it might vanish. Nathan sat nearby, watching her, offering quiet reassurance with his presence rather than words. After a few moments, he said softly, "Melody, I want to help you feel safe. How about a warm bath first? You must be freezing." She hesitated, but the kindness in his voice and the gentle tone reassured her. Slowly, she nodded, allowing him to guide her to the bathroom. While the tub filled with hot water, Nathan gathered some clean clothes for her, small-sized t-shirts, sweatpants with drawstrings, and socks. Each piece felt enormous in her tiny frame, yet Nathan smiled, thinking how simple acts could already make such a difference. Melody climbed into the tub, the warm water enveloping her, and for the first time that night, a sense of relief softened her features. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth seep into her body, washing away, even briefly, the cold and fear of the night. Nathan prepared a little space for her clothes to dry and fold afterward. When she emerged, her hair damp but clean and her cheeks pink from the warm bath, she looked like a different child. Still small, still weary, but human again, no longer defined by hunger or fear. She climbed into the oversized t-shirt and sweatpants Nathan had laid out, curling into the warmth. He brought over the grilled cheese sandwiches and the warm soup. Melody ate slowly at first, still cautious, still unsure. Nathan's voice was calm and encouraging. "There's as much as you want," he said gently, her eyes filled with tears, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and disbelief. "Really?" she whispered. Nathan nodded. "Yes, really." As she ate, Nathan watched her carefully, noticing how she paused, savoring each bite. He realized that this small act, food, warmth, kindness, was beginning to rebuild something that had been broken for far too long. Melody was starting to trust, and Nathan's own heart, long closed off, began to open just a little. This simple evening, a warm meal and a bath, was more than care. It was the first step toward healing, the first thread connecting two broken lives that were about to intertwine forever. After Melody had finished her meal and settled into the warmth of Nathan's apartment, he sat quietly, watching her carefully. She moved slowly, her small frame curling into the oversized clothes, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of curiosity and cautious hope. Nathan knew that this fragile trust had to be protected, nurtured carefully. He couldn't let her slip back into the fear and abandonment that had dominated her life. His mind raced with questions. How could he make sure she was safe? How could he shield her from a system that had failed her repeatedly? His own grief and isolation over the past 3 years had kept him locked away from the world. But now, standing in his modest apartment, he realized he could no longer hide. There was someone who needed him, someone who couldn't survive another night alone. Nathan pulled out his phone and began making calls, his fingers trembling slightly. The first call was to the Department of Children and Family Services. He explained Melody's situation carefully, detailing how she had been abandoned, bounced through multiple foster homes, and was currently alone. He requested information about emergency guardianship procedures, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Next, he contacted his supervisor at the security company. Nathan needed time off to ensure Melody's safety and to navigate the next steps. His voice was steady but firm, filled with determination he hadn't felt in years. "I need to take care of an emergency," he explained. "It's important." Finally, Nathan reached out to Mitchell, a lawyer friend from his past. The call was answered groggily, the familiar voice heavy with sleep. "Nathan, it's Christmas morning. What's going on?" "I need your help, Mitch," Nathan said without hesitation. "There's a little girl, she's been through so much, and she needs someone to fight for her. I can't let her go back to the system. I know it's complicated, but I can't ignore this." Mitchell sighed. "Nathan, it's going to be a legal maze. Background checks, home studies, paperwork. It's not easy to just adopt a child overnight, especially a traumatized one." "I know what it's going to be," Nathan interrupted firmly. "And I know I'm not the same person I was before, but maybe that's exactly why I can help her. She's been failed by everyone else. I won't be another person who walks away." Nathan hung up the phone and looked toward Melody, who was now quietly playing with a small toy he had found in a drawer. Her focus was gentle, tentative, but present. He felt a resolve settling deep in his chest. This little girl deserved safety, warmth, and love. She deserved a father who would never give up. He thought about Sarah, about the dreams they had once shared, the nursery, the future they had envisioned. Perhaps fate had brought him here to this moment so he could protect Melody when no one else would. Perhaps this was his second chance at family, at healing, at purpose. Nathan knelt down to Melody's level. "You don't have to worry anymore," he said softly. "I'll do everything I can to keep you safe. I promise you I'm not going anywhere." Melody looked up at him, her eyes wide and shimmering. For the first time that night, Nathan saw a flicker of trust and hope, a fragile light that had survived despite all the darkness she had endured. And in that moment he knew he would fight for her no matter the challenges, no matter how long it took. He would be her father in every sense that mattered. The journey was just beginning, but Nathan felt a quiet determination settle over him. For Melody, he would move heaven and earth. For Melody, he would reclaim his own heart and open it to love once more. The next morning, Nathan woke before the sun, his mind racing. Melody stirred on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her breathing slow and steady, a rare peace on her small face. Nathan felt something shift inside him, a quiet, fierce determination that he hadn't known he still possessed. This was it. He couldn't let her return to a system that had failed her so completely. Not now, not ever. After breakfast, Nathan sat Melody down on the couch. "Melody," he said softly, "today I'm going to make sure you're safe. I promise you that. You're not going anywhere." Her eyes, wide and cautious, searched his face. Adults had made promises before, promises that had been broken, but Nathan's voice carried something different, something real. He picked up the phone and dialed Mitchell, his lawyer friend. The call was answered on the second ring. "Nathan," Mitchell's voice sounded groggy. "Are you sure about this? It's not simple." "I'm sure," Nathan replied firmly. "I can't let her go back to foster homes or strangers. She's been through too much already. I have to do this for her and for me." Nathan listened carefully as Mitchell outlined the steps: emergency guardianship, background checks, home studies, and paperwork. It sounded overwhelming, almost impossible, but Nathan didn't flinch. He had faced unimaginable loss before. He had endured grief that had nearly broken him. And now this little girl needed him, needed a father who would never give up. As he ended the call, Nathan turned to Melody, who had been watching quietly. "Do you trust me?" he asked. She hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded slowly. I trust you," she whispered. The rest of the day became a whirlwind of action. Nathan filled out forms, made appointments, and began preparing his apartment for inspection. He learned quickly what the system required: proof of stability, evidence of care, and documentation that he was ready to raise a child. It was exhausting, but Nathan felt alive in a way he hadn't in years. For the first time since Sarah's death, he felt a sense of purpose that went beyond himself. Melody, sensing the seriousness of the day, followed him quietly, helping in small ways, gathering her clothes, carrying a few papers, asking questions with curiosity and hope. Nathan smiled at her determination and resilience. She was tiny, yet so strong, a survivor in every sense. By evening, Nathan sat back on the couch, exhausted but resolute. He looked at Melody, who was curled up reading a small book he had found for her. "You know, Melody," he said softly, "you saved me too. I thought I was done with hope, done with family, but finding you, it changed everything." She looked up at him, her eyes shining. "You saved me first," she said quietly. Nathan felt a lump rise in his throat, a mixture of pride, love, and overwhelming emotion. This was the turning point, the moment when two broken lives intersected and everything began to change. Nathan knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with legal challenges, paperwork, and the emotional work of healing. But for the first time in years, he wasn't afraid. He had found his purpose, his reason to fight, and his family, built not from chance, but from love, choice, and courage. This Christmas Eve, what had started as a small act of kindness had grown into a promise. Nathan Hayes would never leave Melody's side. He would be the father she deserved, the protector she needed, and in doing so, he would finally reclaim the heart he thought had been lost forever. The following days were a whirlwind for Nathan. Each morning, he woke with a renewed determination to do whatever it took to keep Melody safe. The emergency guardianship process demanded patience, diligence, and courage, qualities Nathan had long forgotten he possessed. Yet, seeing Melody's fragile smile, hearing her soft laugh when she thought no one was listening, he found the strength to face every challenge head-on. Nathan began with the paperwork. The forms were endless, requiring personal history, proof of employment, and assurances of stability. Every signature, every document, felt like a brick being laid in the foundation of a new life, one that included both of them. He carefully double-checked each page, knowing that any mistake could jeopardize the progress they had made. Next came home inspections. Social workers arrived to evaluate the apartment, ensuring it was safe and child-friendly. Nathan had spent hours tidying up, moving fragile items out of reach, and creating a small corner for Melody with a bed, blankets, and her few belongings. When the social worker, Ms. Carter, arrived, she immediately noted the warmth of the apartment, the care Nathan had taken to prepare it, and the quiet presence of a little girl who seemed comfortable and safe. "How long have you known Melody?" Ms. Carter asked gently. "Just a few days," Nathan admitted. "But I can't ignore the fact that she's been through so much. I want to be there for her in every way I can." Melody peeked out from her small corner, clutching her blanket. Nathan knelt beside her. "See, she's here to help us make sure everything's okay," he whispered softly. Melody nodded slightly, a small spark of trust evident in her eyes. Throughout the week, Nathan juggled calls to his lawyer Mitchell, the social workers, and his supervisor at work, who had graciously given him time off to focus on Melody's welfare. Each conversation was exhausting, but Nathan approached them with a determination fueled by love. Every step forward in the legal process felt like a victory, a safeguard for the little girl who had been abandoned far too many times before. As the days passed, Nathan also focused on building routine and trust with Melody. They cooked meals together, with Melody carefully measuring ingredients and giggling when flour dusted her small nose. Nathan helped her with homework, patiently explaining math problems and encouraging her creativity through drawing and storytelling. Slowly, Melody began to smile more freely, the tension in her shoulders easing with each passing day. Some nights were harder than others. Melody would wake suddenly, trembling and crying from nightmares of her grandmother and the people who had failed her. Nathan held her close, whispering reassurances, letting her know she was safe and that he would never abandon her. In those moments, he realized that this little girl was teaching him to heal in ways he hadn't imagined. By the end of the week, Nathan began to see a subtle transformation in Melody. Her laughter came easier, her eyes held more light, and the fragile walls around her heart started to crumble. Nathan felt it too, a warmth returning to a heart that had been closed for so long. Even amidst legal paperwork, inspections, and endless phone calls, one thing became clear: their bond was unbreakable. The little girl who had searched through garbage on a Christmas Eve had now found not just safety, but a father who would fight for her with every ounce of strength he had left. Nathan knew the hardest part was yet to come, the final legal steps that would make their connection permanent. But as he looked at Melody's bright, trusting eyes, he knew that no obstacle was insurmountable. Together, they were becoming a family, one choice, one act of love at a time. The morning of the court hearing arrived, and Nathan could feel a mix of nervousness and anticipation coursing through him. Melody sat beside him, her small hand tucked into his, giving him silent reassurance. She was wearing a fresh purple dress, a far cry from the tattered jacket she had worn the night they met. Nathan couldn't help but smile at how much she had grown, not just physically, but emotionally in the short time they had been together. "Are you nervous?" Nathan asked gently, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. "A little," she admitted, "but also excited, like when you open a present you've been dreaming about." Nathan nodded, understanding perfectly. He too felt that mix of anxiety and hope. Today would decide whether this fragile, beautiful connection they had built could become permanent. As they entered the courtroom, Nathan spotted Mitchell waiting with a reassuring nod. The social worker, Ms. Carter, and the guardian ad litem were all present, ready to speak on Melody's behalf. The judge, Patricia Hernandez, had been a family court judge for 15 years, and Nathan could sense her calm, professional attention as she reviewed the documents before her. "Mr. Hayes," Judge Hernandez began, "when we first met 6 months ago, you were a single man with no experience raising children, requesting emergency guardianship of a child you had known for less than 24 hours. I had concerns." She paused, looking directly at Nathan. "However, the reports I've received from Dr. Richards, Melody's teachers, and social workers all indicate the same thing. You have dedicated yourself completely to Melody, ensuring her safety, emotional well-being, and development. That is commendable." She turned toward Melody. "And you, young lady, would you like to say something?" Melody stood tall, her voice steady and clear. "Your Honor, Nathan saved my life, not just the first night when I was cold and hungry, but every day since. He helped me feel safe, taught me things, and never broke a promise. He is my dad because he chose me and keeps choosing me every single day." The courtroom was silent for a moment, then a ripple of warm approval went through those present. Judge Hernandez's expression softened. "Then it is my honor," she said, "to grant Nathan Hayes the adoption of Melody. Nathan, you are now her legal father." Nathan felt a wave of relief and joy wash over him. His knees nearly gave way as he looked at Melody, her face radiant with happiness. "We did it," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "We did it," Nathan confirmed, lifting her into a hug that conveyed 3 years of grief transformed into love. That evening, they celebrated with takeout in their modest living room. Melody handed Nathan a drawing she had made in art therapy, a picture of the two of them holding hands in front of a house, labeled "My Family." Nathan hung it on the refrigerator, feeling the profound truth of their journey settle in his chest. "I used to think families were only the people you're born with," Nathan said softly. "But you taught me that the best families are the ones we choose, the ones we build with love and patience." Melody climbed into his lap, snuggling close. "Thank you for not walking away that night," she whispered. Nathan kissed the top of her head, breathing in her scent. "Thank you for letting me stay," he replied. In that moment, two broken lives had become one whole, bound by trust, care, and unconditional love. The man who had lost everything had found purpose. The little girl who had lost everyone had found a father who would never leave. And together they had discovered the true meaning of family, not born from blood, but chosen, nurtured, and cherished forever. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change a life. Sometimes saving someone else means saving yourself. Nathan and Melody had done both, and in doing so, they had found home. If this story touched your heart, remember that even the smallest act of kindness can change someone's life forever. Nathan's choice to stop, see Melody, and help her transformed not only her world but his own. Stories like this remind us that family isn't just about blood. It's about love, trust, and the people who choose to stay with us through every storm. If you believe in the power of compassion, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this story to inspire others. Together, we can spread hope and kindness everywhere.